Hello, and welcome to today's live stream happy hour. My name is Eric Brayman, and I am so excited that today we get to welcome a wonderful theatrical artist new to our community, at least in the realms of the world cracking back open. James Peck. James, welcome.
Thank you, Eric. Nice to be here.
We're so excited to have you here and learn a little bit more about the really cool and unique and dynamic form of art that you bring to our community. I'm going to start off with giving just a quick introduction to the live stream happy hour for any of those who are new to the space. The live stream happy hour was created over a year ago now, almost a year and a half ago now. Maybe even 2 years ago? Oh my gosh, I'm losing track of time. What is time? The live stream happy hour started, I think, about 2 years ago in order to be able to help us continue to connect artists with our community and community to connect with new artists in our community, especially in a time when we weren't able to meet in person. Now, as the world is opening back up and we're starting to have some spaces to enjoy the arts together again, we still wanted to keep these going so we can keep introducing, using this virtual network to bring people together. So we are so excited to introduce the first artist for today, James Peck. James, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it right off to you so you can tell us a little bit about yourself as an artist and creator, and maybe when did you come here to Lane County? Because you are a pretty new move this way, right?
My days. This is really funny. This thing's been on for a year, maybe 2 years. You're like saying that, or I don't know whether it's. And I'm a little bit like that about moving to the area because we moved up like in the midst of the pandemic, and so it's been like a smear of like we went out just before we went out to Eugene just before the holidays, and we were driving around and going, wow, we've been here for at least a year and we don't know this area hardly at all because the pandemic has just totally impacted our perception of time and space. And so the great thing now is that, you know, we got our feet on the ground here in the middle of the woods, and we started exploring the area, and this place is freaking awesome. I love it so much. Yeah, so I'm really excited to have moved up here. I mean, Oregon, after all, is California is a wannabe Oregon. I don't know whether you know, but it's like it's just great. I love it. I'm swimming.
You just said all the right things to every Oregonian that's on this call right there. Well, we're so excited to have you here, and I know that you moved up here and you're living over in the Fern Ridge area. So tell us a little bit about kind of you work in performance art, which is probably is part of the reason why it's tough to kind of especially grab your footing.
Yeah, I mean, I
You
don't
tell
know.
us about your performance art that you practice.
It's interesting how that's going to play out. As an artist, you know, I'm a physical theater. I would say trained at Dell'Arte International, which is in Northern California, and then I ended up working there for like 10 plus years, and eventually wanted to move into another area, basically with the idea of setting up a company and also beginning. We have these wild ideas about how that work can move into all arts, and we have this long-term idea of creating an artist retreat, or should I say an artist monastery, a monastery where we wander around in monks' cowls and things and practice art in the morning, and I don't know, and look after bees in the afternoon. I don't know. There's this vision of the future, and we moved up to Oregon for this because as an artist, and you know, found kindred spirits up here that share this view, and as a physical theater artist, everything comes from a natural viewpoint, from the point of view of what the nature of things are. And so being here as I say, like a crazy man in the woods. It allows me uh, the the mask of the real,
Mm,
which has been a really difficult thing through the COVID times. Reality
yeah.
for some folks has been really thrown all out of whack, and so to immerse ourselves in the actually what is real, which is uh, what Jacques Lecoq, the
Mhm.
godfather of physical theater, would say is the permanence, les permanence, les
Mhm.
permanences. The reality of a tree, the horizontal nature of the horizon, um, uh, how water is, what fire is.
Yeah.
Um, so there's very much that's for me as an artist to end up in this area, um, and also to be close to uh, pockets of civilization, and to be close to Eugene, which is really is bubbling mass of different types of people. It's just
Mhm.
wonderful. Then, as an artist, I feel like I've landed on my feet.
Yeah. Well, welcome. That's so exciting. And I know we've kind of got a little bit of a sense of some of the art that you do. I wonder if we can even just watch one of your performances, which I feel like this is a really lovely, it's you and I think it's a clown trio that you're a part of. I'll go ahead and pull up a screen share so you can kind of maybe give an introduction to this. Let me get this up real quick.
Okay, I think you're referring to the mysterious magical brandishes of magic.
That sounds right. Yeah. I think it should be popping up any second. There it is. So tell us a little bit, maybe before we watch into this video, tell us a little bit about this group, who they are.
Well, I've put on a lot of weight since this time, actually.
I think we all have in our own ways.
uh, yeah, this group grew out of some friends in Northern California, and we toured all over the place. It's basically three clowns that really don't do magic very well, but like all clown work is mostly about failure in front of the audience, as the audience feels better about itself. Um, but we had fun uh, playing with the characters and playing with the kind of tricks that happened by accident. Particularly, we discovered a trick. You've heard of the bed of nails?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, we performed something called the bed of nail, which uh, theoretically someone was to levitate over the bed of nail, but unfortunately, the guy in the middle ended up having the nail um, inserted. Yeah, every
Ooh,
every night. It didn't get easier, I'll tell you, Eric.
oh my God. Well, let's go ahead and watch this little quick snippet of you two just clowning and having fun.
Oh, magic! Siwa, shita, bi, swell, huya, ha, 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 ooh, shoo.
It's
Yes.
just so silly and wonderful, and you can kind of get a sense of some of the energy that you all bring to it. So I want to talk a little bit about kind of clowning and miming are two really big pieces that come into this physical theater I know that you explore. Tell me a little bit about where your passion for miming and clowning came from. Where did it originate?
Yeah, and so even before I talk about clowning and miming, is like I invite anybody out there to close their eyes and imagine what they think of when they think of clowns and mimes. So, for the most part, clowns, then I like either it or really bad children's party clowns or annoying clowns that I come across on the street, and same thing with mimes. But mostly I teach theatrical clown, which is teaching about timing, finding the funny in yourself, finding the flop, the failure, mask work, which is the smallest mask in the world, or the most profound mask. Because it's round, it means it's limited possibilities. Of course, it has to be funny. So being funny, you being the joke, you being the metaphor, is really how I see clown. So theatrical clown is a different deal from the we'll say children's clown. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking it. It's just it just makes it difficult when people associate clown with something that isn't funny. That's so that's the nature of that side of clown. The other thing that's profound is that for the onlooker, some of the great plays spin around clown, or they delve into clown, like Waiting for Godot is two clowns, basically. So there's that. That's really where I dig around in clown. And as for mime, well, that's something that is a passion of mine, because the original meaning of mime is pantomime, which is the embodiment of everything. So it's tied with an understanding of what everything is by identifying with. And so this is one of the most ancient of arts. Cave paintings on the wall, it's Lucerne, is it somewhere in France? They're 30,000-year-old cave paintings of folks dressed up as antelope and animals, in order to identify with the animal, in order to it's by means of a celebration of, and therefore being able to get the animal and eat it and survive. So as you know, there's the wall deal,
the wall, and the rope,
of course, and the rope. Yeah, I love all that shit. I'm sorry, excuse me. I dig all that so much, but that is just from someone identifying with a rope and how to depict that. And so there's aspects of it which I feel are the embodiment of and the rehearsal of life, of everyday activities, and therefore there is a pathway into empathy. There's a pathway into understanding what the gods are that are behind the activity, and it's also a way of understanding personal habit in relationship to everyday activities.
Yeah, I love hearing you talk about the philosophy and the approach, because you're right. Sometimes people, I think, look at things like mime or clown and might say, oh, it's very fun, it's very silly, but they don't think about sometimes like how much thought and how much practice goes into it to be able to find that kind of access of relationship and find that kind of physical freedom and physical intentionality, right? That it's intentionally free in so many ways, in the ways that you're exploring, and this relationship that you are originating, creating, expressing, and embodying. That's a really complex, actually, process. and it takes a lot of practice. Great clowns and mimes, and even, you know, again, clown being this much bigger concept like you opened us up to, it's much more practice than I think people sometimes think it is, and it's not quite as simple as maybe a really great mime and clown have worked very hard on their craft to be able to find that silliness, find the humor in sometimes really dark topics, like the mime stuck in the box that gets smaller and smaller and smaller. It's a terrifying concept, and it's amazing to watch and hilarious when it's able to be expressed with the range of emotion and relationship to this physical thing that doesn't exist in this moment of performance. And I just love hearing you talk about how much intentionality goes into that.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on there, Eric. It's definitely a thing that once it gets past you know, timing and the comic effect. Well, let's see, what is it? Something ridiculous. 100 hours of rehearsal for 10 minutes of clown. It's something. No, I think it's anyway. Some ludicrous correlation between the two, and it's because I think that the joke, it's not a question of creating a joke, it's a question of understanding how the person in the situation is the joke. And the punchline is always about either something that allows laughter to liberate or allows laughter to reveal. So it's always about revelation or liberation. Good clowning, I would say. Not that I'm not judging. I've given up judging, but
Yeah.
all the other clowns are really crap. It's just that, yeah. So it becomes, you know, like an existential nightmare, like the clown in the box. It has the potential for then revealing how even in the deepest, darkest, most awful COVID-esque circumstance, it then becomes metaphor for being liberated, because the box can't contain the clown.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Jessica Ruth Baker, who's watching. Hi, Jessica. Thanks for tuning in. Wonderful theater practitioner in our community. She shared some of the most shared this earlier, I showed it a second ago. Some of the most moving and emotional, affecting theater I've seen have been done by clowns and mimes. It's like the incredible access they have to accessing the emotion through this physical play. And she also shared studying clown helped her become a better actor and dancer. And I think that that's a really true thing. Mask work, clowning, miming, when you have to rely and lean into the physical being so much, it cracks open new pieces of yourself as a performer. Have you seen that in students that you've worked with as well?
Say again?
Have you seen that in students that you've worked with as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And Jessica, thank you for sharing that. It is definitely a Lecoq would say that Lecoq put it at the end of the 2-year training course in Paris, mainly because it was the culmination of everything. I mean, of course, he would say, well, it's, you know, it's a fun way to end, but actually it's a culmination, because in order to really be a good clown, you have to understand drama, you have to understand melodrama, you have to understand tragedy, you have to understand where you are in space. And the list goes on. So yeah, because it stretches to the very limit, it has to have the extremes within it. And if you're able to convert the extremes into meaning, then of course it's going to relate to dance. Of course it's going to relate to you as an actor. If you're able to express size in meaning, then that's the deal. That's the business. You're then able to either squeeze it into the small camera space, or you're able to expand it out into the large auditorium.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you, James. I want to maybe bring up one more clip of another clip of this wonderful magical troupe that you're a part of. That I think this was one of the intros that for me just made me absolutely giggle. So this looks like it's at a performance space that you all had. Can you tell us? Do you recall this particular space and what this performance venue was? For any introduction?
Yeah, this was a cabaret at Dell'Arte International, and I wonder what bit you just let it run.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Magical brandishes of magic. Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We come to you on the full moon night, following the lunar luminescence and the sound of the howling wolf.
Ow! Brothers! There is evil present here!
And it is not voodoo kebab! And it is not the hot Powerburger!
And it is not me!
The Spakika, the mysterious mistress of Magica. Ladies and gentlemen, that could mean only one thing. It is one of you! There is evil among you. Yeah. And we will find that evil using our tantalizing testicular nipply needles.
Oh my gosh, what's up? There we go. And we'll pause right there. But to me, that feels like, I know it's just the introduction. There's so much more wonderful improvisation and audience participation that you dive into from there. But to me, it's just such a wonderful example of how physical and hilarious you can be when you allow yourself to be a little bit of that joke, of the missed wording that you kind of have there, and the wonderful little beep, 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 beep kind of moments. And, you know, it's clear that you're having so much fun with the reality of these characters that are pointing back at themselves as the greatest part of the joke, it feels like. Yeah, any thoughts kind of with that?
Yeah, that particular clown trio was just such a blast to be part of, and you know that it's a deal to find collaborators, whether it's collaborators who are working directly with you or collaborators who connect and inspire you. It's a deal that it then creates it creates an ensemble that isn't just the sum of the parts, but also that in between there is another member. And so we had so much fun that the material just seemed to generate itself. That particular show, we was the thing is that it then becomes so warm that the audience want to play, and so the play then just emerges out of it. And I feel like a community of artists, and this thing that you're jiving with here, Eric, it then creates an inspiring circle of play where anything's possible. And you know, if things flop, then good, isn't it? You know, celebrate our flops and our failures, so that other people are happy to fail. The more failures we make, the more we learn.
I love that.
That's
Well,
my
I'm going to drop it.
ramble in response to that particular show. We had some fantastic fun exercising people all over the country, actually.
I love it. Well, I went ahead and dropped the link over to the longer YouTube video, which I know is a compilation of a number of the different performances that you and your troupe have done. So anyone who's curious, please go down and check it out. There's some hilarious, wonderful moments that are explored in there. Well, James, I want to jump over, and I know that you have kind of this perspective specifically with the realm of physical theater. Yes, we're talking about kind of like good physical theater and the philosophy of it, but you mentioned that it kind of connects for you to the greater world of art. So what connections have you found beyond kind of this theatrical maybe form, and kind of where physical theater kind of awakens things elsewhere for you in your artistry?
Well, Eric, the deal is for me, and so I'm going to talk from my own personal experiences that, you know, if I take on a mask, if I, let's say, I take on a commedia mask or a tragic mask or whatever, there is an aspect to which there is a spirit in that mask which I then embody. And, you know, that then allows me to enter into a frame of thinking, which isn't left-sided brain thinking. It's in tune with the nature of a thing. And so my physicality then informs the spirit of the thing, blah, blah, blah. The idea of physical theater then is that a mask is a structure of movement. Or you could say a mask is a structure of provocation. And it from there, it then talks about what mask is. Well, there is, of course, your average mask, and you've got your horror mask, you've got your commedia mask, you've got Balinese mask. But then when it moves more to East Africa traditions, there's also the mask of certain practices, the mask of the hunt, the mask of, I've even seen a mask which was the mask of not making mistakes with medical matters when the facts are staring you in the face. That actually was a mask that was made. So then the masks then are everywhere. The mask of the room, how the room provokes feelings in you. You definitely have a different feeling or a different physical empathic relationship with your office to when you walk into a burger bar, or you walk into a wrestling match. Those masks then have impact on you. And once the concept of us as pantheistic beings that are conduits for our environment, then art can only emerge from that. Because that's the only source of expression.
Yeah. I really love hearing you dive deep into the philosophies, the histories of these art forms, and how deeply that's clear that it informs your entry point and your placement within these art forms too. And we have a compilation here, I think, of a few of your different mask performances. I think that might be helpful for folks who maybe haven't seen much mask work before to get a sense of kind of what does this look like. So let's go ahead and pull this up. And this is a little bit of a longer one, so I'll take both of our videos off so that we can have the audience fully enjoy it. There's some really dynamic characters that I think that you access with these masks. So do you have any things that you want to introduce before we jump into watching this little compilation?
Yeah, so this actually was, this was a piece that was developed for, it was an interactive piece about the narratives that we tell. So there are several characters, they're all strung together by a particular character called Artika, who was who's a person who's just itinerant traveling, never-ending traveling and telling stories. And the idea being that at the end of the piece we then provoke or ask questions of the audience to share with strangers experiences that they've had that are along the lines of the themes of the stories. And I got to thank my beloved partner, hero, wife, spouse, glorious heroine person, who actually really had the guts to then take it out of the box and bring it before audience members like that, because the outcome of this was connected the community as they shared stories, and it was, anyway, it's really moving. Outside of the mask piece, the mask piece is like a Trojan horse for people to share their own stories.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go ahead and give it a watch and let the audience enjoy it.
Here I am. All of me right here. Can't do anything else. I find myself being me wherever I end up, huh? That's okay. That's okay. That's how I like it. I want you to meet Artika. I know it's a funny name, but he's such a good man. This time, I think you'll like him. Ha! You think I'll like him, do ya? Well, boy, you see all this? Huh? As far as the eye can see. But something moved. It was a hideous old crow. And I woke her up. She looked at me and she asked me for bread. I realized at once I was at the meeting place of the four corners of the wise. In an instant, then she reaches up, she snaps up a branch from the tree. With one swift movement, she strips the leaves and twigs, leaving quite a substantial switch. She asked me a third time for bread, but I had nothing to give. She beat me with the birch, and she continued to ask me for food, a bug, a sandwich, a donut. They live in a world of avarice, but I love a good life. My home is in all things. Those who look down on me, remember, desire is the beginning of the end.
So excuse me. Oh, sorry. There it goes. Sometimes YouTube likes to do its own thing. I love seeing that and seeing this performance of these range of physicalities that you discover, but also the incredible design of the masks and the costumes and that big box thing that he's carrying on his back, very labyrinth-esque. It was just really exciting to see the range of kind of pieces there. So walk us through a little bit of kind of that design process for this show.
Well, so some of it was pragmatic, some of it was poetic, and it's interesting how the pragmatic and the poetic is like the Titanic. No, not like that better than just, so the need was that this man was traveling endlessly, always on the move, and that's the need of the character, but also the need of the show was to have a box wherein all the masks, I think there were 9 masks were in that, and that, so I would have to go in there to change the mask and then move out and then go in there, change the mask, go out, and I got to say that I made a hideous monster for my own back, a rod for my own back. It was exhausting.
Oh no.
Because the first mask is a puppet that I held, but that also means that I have to hold the entire structure up while I move, and then I turn the whole box round, step out, and in a very short amount of time I have to have the first mask on, and then boom, the beginning of the piece happens. And so the box has to open in such a way that it becomes an off stage, but there's nothing going to waste in there.
Mm-hmm.
All the space in there has got masks hanging off and props dangling this way and that. So the practicalities of it produced the box, and the box produced this. It all fed
So
into
cyclical. Yeah, I hear a cyclicality in it. Yeah.
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 I had the image of Artika carrying the burden of his story on his back. That's where it started.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the other masks emerged from that, which included a pig and a duck. So it was fun.
Awesome.
It was fun, but it was quite an exhausting 45 minutes to perform.
I can imagine. Yeah. I mean, any time that you're holding space for 45 minutes as a single performer is a feat in and of itself. It's a huge physical toll, huge vocal toll, and pieces like that. And of course, for you, vocal wasn't a big part of it, but that physicality that you were carrying of these different characters and objects and shifting and movement. And I guess another piece of it that sometimes I think comes for me in theater that are the moments that feel most exciting is when it's clear that the solution that had to be found to make the thing work on stage is also what makes the performance magical. Like I can see how that box, I'm sure, created this sense of magic, that it was like another thing appears and another thing appears and another character appears, and now he's a big, like that. As an audience member, there's those moments that hopefully many of us have experienced when we watch a show and you're like, how did that happen? Or like I was like constantly surprised as I was watching this, because the technician side of the theater has to be like, okay, we have to figure out how to make it sure it's on stage so the actor can grab the thing and switch into the, and blah, 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 blah. And I think sometimes we think it's just like a tech trick, but it's actually an incredible collaboration and partnership. And for you, you're playing all those roles, I can hear, in partnership with your partner's support to design, create, and implement and perform that. And so it's that I can hear the physical and performance goal that can have.
It all happens in a box. We're back to the clown in a box thing.
There it is.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for that. I also have to put a word in for my collaborator, partner, hero, wife person, who really helped me hone the work into something that was survivable.
Mhm.
I mean, I really wish I could say, yeah, so I toured it and it became easier, and eventually it was like, but I honestly can't. The more that tried to hone it, the more slicker tried to make it, the 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 more tricky the timing became.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was a great teacher for me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that when roles can become kind of the educator for you. Well, I want to make a pretty big shift because I know that you just recently went through an Alexander Techniques intensive, and that's a really important art form for you. So maybe you can introduce a little bit of what Alexander Technique is for us. But I also wanted to connect this question that you mentioned in a previous conversation we've had, is that you've been exploring some more socially conscious approaches to your art in this physical art form and tradition, specifically kind of connected to whiteness and how power can find its way into the theatrical form. So tell us a little bit about kind of those connections and what you're exploring right now in that realm.
Well, there's the theatrical form, of course, because we were talking earlier about it being a rehearsal for life and about empathy. And, I'm finding more and more that as a white cis male, that I don't buy into the hero story anymore. When I was 13 or 23, I was very into.
But what about when you were 33?
White men are gonna save the world. Superman, yes, I'm like that. But the more that I've meandered through existence, the more I've realized that actually white men have got to get out of the way, basically move to one side, so that people who are actually capable of providing diverse points of view and capable of maybe getting our social milieu out of this mess are given the opportunity to do so. So, but that aside, we've been we've started something called the Whiteness Within, which, and the information of that is on the openart.org.
Yeah, scrolling down here at the bottom of the webpage is right down there.
And that workshop is primarily it's for white folks to get together and come to an understanding amongst themselves about whiteness, white supremacy, and whatever. If you understand what I mean by it, the white supremacist viewpoint of the world. And that it's also in collaboration with BIPOC folks, and it's advised and witnessed by BIPOC folks. So there's that, and there's also a workshop that we're working on at the moment, which is called Power.moves, which is about status and how it permeates everywhere, that all interactions that we have around us. Gosh, if you mention hierarchy or boss troubles to anyone, then suddenly there's just like a flood of stories about power over and helplessness. And it can be the tiniest slights to the most objectionable treatment. And the question is, how is that continuing? If everyone understands that goes on, how does that then continue?
Mhm.
And it isn't just the people who are oppressed, it's also the people who are doing the oppressing are also suffering. It's actually a health problem as well as a social problem. So we're developing a workshop about that, and all of this to say that there is I'm not going to say role playing, but it's developing an empathic way of understanding through personal expression, physical expression as well. And this is where it ties into Alexander technique, or we're trying to move into different somatic practices, so that even if there's nothing you can do about the circumstance you're in, you can still allow yourself a safe place so you can continue playing. So these things are in the works. The Whiteness Within is actually a well-established workshop. But yeah, so that's definitely on the go. And Alexander technique, in a nutshell, is a method of making choices about your own physical and psychological state, so that you develop habits that are healthy.
Yeah, I love hearing this. And actually, we had a really great question come in from Jessica, who's been a phenomenal participant today. She shared in intimacy, direction, and coordination, there's a deep connection and exploration of status and how it changes and connects people. Is there any connection of this in your workshop, of some of that work that's been happening at the theater, kind of national, international theater level?
Yeah, that's intimacy direction is absolutely 100% a fantastic revolutionary change in the theater. It not only did it bring up the question of, hey, is this all right to do this, but that then moved through the entire viewpoint framework of acting professionals across the board. They suddenly realized, wait a minute, I don't have to do this. I don't have to be forced under a director to, put my leg up there. There is and in so doing, it dismantled a perceived hierarchy that is actually destructive and non-creative.
Yeah, I really appreciate this conversation too, around the realm of how we can use theater, as you were talking about this being a rehearsal for life, and kind of as a space where we can really challenge what is the systems that exist when we come into the space together. And the intimacy, coordination, and direction that Jessica brought up, and this acknowledgement of our bodysuits that we carry with us on stage, and the identities that we carry in as power into a creative space. All of these pieces have been in discussion, and it's funny how sometimes theater can be the leader in some of these dialogues of topics that are hot in the community, and sometimes theater can fall so far behind the conversations that are happening elsewhere and perpetuate these oppressive moments in the rehearsal, audition, performance space. And to see that these dialogues are becoming more explicit, and that we're using the form as a tool to engage honest dialogue about it, especially when you start thinking about in the realm of, yes, like the traditional theatrical, well, I don't know if I want to say traditional, but the rehearsal-based theatrical process with director, actor kind of hierarchy that exists. There's a lot of oppression that has the opportunity to express itself there based on who's playing what roles and what kind of perceptions, favoritisms, or expectations are placed on each of those individuals below the director when that's the hierarchical perspective in the room. On the flip side, in the improv space, when sometimes you don't have an explicit director, you don't have an explicit decision maker, explicit leader, there can also be some pretty hot things that pop up there. And, we saw some clowning and work that you all are doing where audience members are coming on stage. You have no idea what those people are going to bring on the stage with them, or how you might make them feel depending on their identities that they carry onto the stage with them. And so it really is this really important space where these dialogues need to happen to ensure that people are able to thrive and find their best selves in the work that they're doing, but also so that we can continue to be in that realm of engaging the question and engaging the work in order to help make shifts beyond the circles of theater, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're creating shows that maybe are about like the importance of challenging the like patriarchy, we better be challenging the patriarchy behind the scenes as well. Like that's a really important part of this whole process, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, there is an aspect to which the bubbling under has been there are movements which utilize theatre concepts in order to bring out the kind of ideas which undermine the hierarchy you're talking about, theatre of the oppressed,
Mhm.
nonviolent communication, that all utilize various kinds of theatre concepts in order to come to terms with what theatre is about, which is actually the conflict of the gods.
Mhm.
And to not recognize, and this is the divorce basically, is that you can be making complex pieces of theatre about power dynamics and have a casting couch. There's cognitive dissonance going on there, which is about structural bad habits,
Mhm.
organizational, historical bad habits that needed to be busted, needed to be broken.
Yeah.
And thank God they are being busted up.
Yeah.
It's yeah. So yeah.
And yeah, and something I want to say that I really appreciate that you brought in as a key part of this is that it's not just about the folks who are being oppressed. I just want to reiterate this point. It's not about the folks who are being oppressed coming to advocate and make the change. It's also the people doing the oppression that need to be the ones having the dialogue, making the change, activating the change, because though we as those who hold powers of privilege, positions of privilege from the identities that we hold, we perpetuate it, even with the best intentions that we may carry into spaces with us. We still perpetuate it. And so by being the people who are taking the honest conversation, saying, hey, time to look in the mirror and really figure out what it is that I'm doing that is perpetuating this positionality and this circumstance in our community, and how can I change my ways of thinking, my ways of engaging, my ways of acting in order to instigate that change. It's just really powerful to hear that you're having those conversations.
Yeah, I love it, Eric. I'm glad you reiterated that. And one of the trickiest things tied in with that is that the more that one enjoys and is embraced by privilege, and I mean there's some kind of chart somewhere which shows this, the less empathy you have. Higher up the hierarchy you are, the less empathy you have for those below you. There's some papers written somewhere about this, and so the increase in blindness about your relationship with others one's relationship with others in when you're high up on the ladder is, of course you're going to carry on doing what you do because you're blind to the possibilities that there's another way, or you're blind to the difficulty of the people below you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, James. I know we could talk about this, I think, for hours if we really wanted to get into it. You'd probably end up having your entire workshop for everyone here, and I got to make sure that there's things for people to enroll and be able to come and participate with you. So thank you so much. We are right at the end of our time, and I know we had a couple other things to chat about, but I guess that just encourages others to still make sure that they're reaching out to you to kind of start planting these seeds of collaboration.
Yeah,
Rob, I'll end you on, especially because you're a member of our community. what are your hopes for next steps and connections with our community? Where are you hoping to kind of find your footing?
Well, I'm gonna start trying to do performances out and about, round and around. So look out for that, and I don't know, I'll try and find ways of getting that stuff out there. I'm also going to. There's 2 workshops that I'm gonna start putting together personally. One which is Mime and the Alexander technique, and the other which is Tai Chi and uh, certain applications of Dart, the Dart procedures with Alexander technique. So it's that those things come together so that there is a rehearsal for movement with ease. So those two things, those 2 workshops I'm in process of putting together.
Awesome. And I know that we've got your email down there. We've got the open art group page. Is there any other places that people could potentially be on the lookout to be able to find more information when those come out?
Well, I'm in the process of making a website, which is like it's not my favorite. So I've been doing that for a few months now. When that's out, I'll put that out somewhere. Wait, is there a connector thing on this that I can?
So this recording is actually going to be saved. So I would say when you got that ready, please come and drop it in the comments for this video. And for anyone who's watching, interested in learning more, you can come back and maybe revisit this video in a month or so, and maybe try and get connected back with James.
A couple of
months. The moral of the story is, this is the story of every artist, is the hardest thing is building the official system to be able to communicate what it is that I'm doing with my art, right? Where the administrator in all of us suffers, I think, so many ways. It's like, just let me be creative, but we do have to think about that. So I'm glad that you are in the process of creating those systems, and, hopefully we'll be able to get people connected with y'all. And yeah, we're just so appreciative of your time, James, and all the things that you're going to bring to us in the days ahead, months ahead.
Eric, thank you so much for having me on this. It's been a pleasure talking to you all. Really.
Yeah. I couldn't say it better than Jessica. Thank you for your fabulous happy hour, James. It was such a great conversation.
All right.
Thank you all, and we will be back next month with more live stream happy hour with more artists from across our community. Until then, enjoy yourself, go see some art, and please make a contribution to support artists or arts organizations and civil rights organizations in your community. We need all of us together to make sure that the arts can continue to thrive and help us through the continuing changing circumstances of our world. So thank you for being here tonight, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Thank you, Eric.